All right, so my 2000 Ford F350, as you can see, has a bit of a diff vibration that I've been dealing with for a while. I ended up putting a rear end in this thing almost exactly a year ago. Just out of the junkyard, I found a Sterling 10.5 rear end 373 limited slip, and it was out of a 7.3 as well. It was a 99 F250 with about 195,000 miles on it, and the original diff on this was approaching 380,000 miles, and it was the pinion bearings are so bad in it that the pinion ate into the carrier pretty bad. See if I can get some footage of that or some pictures. Been replacing the rear differential on it. This one was out of a 1999 F250. See the pinion making marks on the carrier here. Not ideal at all. Pretty gnarly. And yeah, like I said, I put this rear end in it, put new U-bolts, switched everything over, brake wise, rotor, calipers, everything was kind of mismatched for the better part, but it's been good. Now this rear end, before I installed it, I was disassembling it just a little bit to see the condition of everything in it, and the most notable thing was the pinion was not eating into the carrier, but it might have had some very light scratches that were starting to head that way. Now the pinion sits pretty close to the carrier in these Sterling 10.5 rear ends anyway, so but I decided at the time I needed to get this thing to move, so I did not rebuild the diff, and there's no up and down slop in the yoke or anything. That's actually still tight, no leaks or anything. So, and backing up before that, I was actually before I swapped the diff, I ended up having the drive shaft balanced, just because one of the weights fell out when I was changing the U-joints over to the Spicer U-joints. So it has new U-joints. It's been balanced, painted, they straightened it. But now what I'm dealing with is there's no slop in the pinion bearings, but there's actually these two tabs that locate and center the U-joint in the yoke. And if your straps are kind of wore out or stretch, or you get movement in here, it starts to wear these tabs away. And once those tabs start to wear away, you start to get play. Now, it's gonna be hard to see on the camera, but there's a little bit of play in that for sure. If I force it this way, there's gonna be a little bit more, but there's just wear on these tabs. Kind of hear that click. So obviously that's not ideal, and it's going to create somewhat of a vibration. So the real solution to fix this would obviously be to put a new yoke on it, which is possible, a lot more work. But it really gets you to thinking. That's kind of the standard procedure to correct this problem. And obviously it's the right way, but on times on older equipment or stuff, sometimes you can't find these yokes, or if you can, they're used and they could be worn out like this, which this one isn't too bad, but sometimes you can't get a yoke for whatever it is. I have a 2-wheel drive ZF5 right here that I'm actually going to swap into this truck. This is my 1977 Ford F-250 that I rebuilt a 300 inline 6 for it. It was an 89 EFI block. I converted it to carb. As you can see, I'm doing some work to it right now. Offenhauser intake. I had the Headman long tube headers and cut a hole in the block from the mechanical fuel pump, converted it over to carb. Now this setup with the 2-wheel drive ZF5 that will bolt up to it, I'm thinking is going to be a pretty good combo, since this T18 does not have an overdrive. So that's why I have the 2-wheel drive ZF5 to actually swap into this truck. But the yoke on it, you can't find the yoke new individually anymore. They're all just used ones on eBay. So in this case, that's kind of too bad if there's play, because the yokes are hard to find. You could find a good used one, but sometimes it could be a gamble. So it makes you really wonder, you know, what can you do to actually correct this problem without replacing the yoke itself? So to attempt to, you know, it's not the permanent fix, but alleviate some of the issue, what I'm gonna try is, I got some shim stock here, all different thicknesses, several different packs, and it's stainless, so it's gonna hold up. I'm going to try to force the U-joint one way, take those straps off, force it one way, all the way, and then measure the space in between the end cap and the tab, divide that in two, and actually make a shim to span across and then go up on the tabs. Now, to give you a visual reference up here in the light, I just sandblasted this yoke. This is the yoke off the old differential, off that pickup. Ended up having to torch it off. But what I'm thinking, as you can see, here's the tabs, here's the tabs. This one also has wear. When I was putting different U-joints, because I was thinking, that's interesting, I'll try, you know, another Spicer one, because there was slop in that one, and then I ended up putting it up to this yoke, and the same deal, you know, they both have some wear. So like I said, gonna force the U-joint one way, and then use a feeler gauge or something to get the spec between the end cap and that, you know, one of the tabs, divide that in two. And what I think I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna have the shim span across here, and I'm gonna cut it down so it fits in this notch, as you can see. And it's also notched here, so the end cap actually sits up in here. So you got some wiggle room that you can, you know, maybe get a shim in there. Now there's a little bit of a lip right there, which I'll, you know, try to work around it, see what I can do. But I'm gonna cut one of these shims down, and then it's gonna span across, bend it up in the middle, and do a little V. So if I need some more slack, or, you know, less on each side, you can crimp it. And I'm gonna bend the ends up for the tabs at a 90 degree. And then there's gonna be bent up on each side to hopefully shim the U-joint. So like I said, probably not gonna get lucky and just be able to use one shim. So if I have to put some of them together, I'm going to just spot weld them together with the spot welder. If you don't have a spot welder, you could probably use rivets or something, at least in this part. So, but yeah, we're gonna see how this is gonna work out here. Also, to conclude that, I got new straps with it. Just some Moog straps. There's the part number. But yeah, but as you can see, I got the straps off. You can see the slop in it, which it's not horrible. He's getting a lot worse, but you can see it's not ideal. So what happens is the straps start to get loose and stretch, and then it's not held very tightly, so it starts to get movement, and then it just starts working around back and forth, and it just wears the yoke out basically, you know, around this way, and the tab specifically, even more so. But this whole yoke wears. So like I said, try to shim it and then put the new straps to try to hold this U-joint as tight as possible so it can't really move around. Now, I mean, you could try to center it and get new straps and, you know, tighten them down, but the problem is I think just the centrifugal force of it is going to throw the end caps out eventually anyway, and then, you know, you're still going to have play. But so yeah, I'm going to force it one way, take a feeler gauge in there, measure that, and divide that by 2. Okay, so as you can see, here's what I have so far. Now you can see there's definitely been some trial and error with holes in it. I actually just got the spot welder. It's the 240 Chicago Electric. I was debating on the 120, you know, for taking in different places and stuff, but I thought, well, if I do, you know, thicker material with it, the 240 would probably be more versatile. So clamping it in there tighter and just flicking the trigger and then trying to remove it, and then it ends up popping out these pieces with the tongs. So what I found you have to do is you have to put it in there pretty dang loose, you know, tight but not tight, kind of, you know, medium clamp force, and you have to just barely flick the switch on it, just barely flick it, and you'd think nothing had happened, but it has in fact fused them together. So and these are even though it popped out a chunk, it's still fused around the whole circle where it is missing, so it is bonded together. But yep, it sits in there like that. Now when I was swapping U-joints to see if I happened to get a bad U-joint, I had the Spicer 1410, the solid one, the non-greasable one on there before, and then when I swapped it, I went to the greasable unit. So there's gonna be a greaser in the way, but I was thinking I was gonna pop it in there and then try to bend these tab, or the, you know, the leftover material up and over down here. But as you can see, it sits pretty flat. The biggest thing is just trying to make the corner at, you know, a decent enough 90, which is pretty hard to do. But I think with it sitting in there, it'll kind of work itself together, hopefully. And just to cut it out, just use some tin snips. And the shims are a 10 thousandths and a 6 thou. And I just put them together like so. And yeah, it's just sprung a little bit, so if I need a little more length, just straighten it out. If I need a little less, just, you know, push it together a little more. But that's the idea so far. So I guess I might take just a tiny bit more off these and go put it on the truck and I guess try it at this point. Okay, here's what it looks like before. I'm gonna try putting that on it, just like that. Okay, so I ended up actually using the old straps just because the new ones didn't quite sit flush, and I was actually able to get the old ones to sit flush with the yoke. You can see, oops, there's definitely less poking out this end, so it kind of shifted, and I used the straps to kind of pull it down, and it kind of wedged itself in a 90 in there. And like I said, I was able to get these old straps to sit completely flush. So it's I can get this to focus. It's definitely in there, and they're definitely bent at a 90. And there's no slop whatsoever in it right now. So as long as the straps are in and seated, you could use, you know, a little blue Loctite if you wanted. Obviously don't break these off. I think it might work. But yeah, the shim just sits like that, and then you can kind of see it down in there. It's just gonna be kind of hanging out, bent like that. But I don't see an issue. I don't see why it wouldn't work. So I guess be a good time for a test drive, eh? All right, so here's cruising, touch over 85, and whole lot smoother now. That made a big difference for sure. Whole lot smoother. Doesn't vibrate nearly as bad, so that's always nice. Before you could feel that vibration quite a bit at about 65 and more. It get pretty annoying, so that's definitely a pro. So now I'm just gonna run it around a little bit, check the bolts a couple more times, put some Loctite on them, but overall I'm pretty happy with it. So it's a whole lot smoother. But yeah, so for a solution to deal with this, I think it's a pretty good option without replacing the yoke. So, well, the yoke's still tight, so I'm pretty happy with it, especially if it's more of an obsolete part where you can't put a new yoke, or sometimes it's just a pain to put a yoke on these things. So yeah, quick little fix. Thanks for watching.